In the cold winter of January 8th, 1942, in Oxford, England, a child was born under a sky heavy with war clouds. The world was in turmoil, yet in that moment, a quiet miracle took place. Stephen William Hawking came into a world that would one day know his name as one of the greatest scientific minds in history. It was no ordinary coincidence that he was born exactly 300 years after the death of Galileo Galilei. In time, Stephen Hawking would carry forward Galileo's spirit, the unyielding quest to understand the universe itself. Stephen grew up in a family where books, debates, and ideas filled every room. His father, Frank Hawking, was a medical researcher, and his mother, Isabel, had worked as a secretary at a medical institute. They were not wealthy, but their home was rich with curiosity. Dinner conversations were about science, philosophy, and the world beyond what the eyes could see. Stephen was not an outstanding student in his early years. His handwriting was messy, his attention wandered, and his teachers often found him distracted. But while others memorized facts, Stephen questioned them. Why do things fall down and not up? How do stars shine? What existed before time began? These were not ordinary questions for a boy of 10, but Stephen was no ordinary boy. At St. Albans School, he found close friends who shared his fascination with invention. They built makeshift computers using recycled parts and worked on homemade experiments in their free time. One of his teachers, recognizing his spark, predicted that Stephen would grow into a great scientist. His classmates called him Einstein, half in jest, half in awe. When Stephen entered Oxford University at the age of 17, he stood out not for his grades, but for his confidence and wit. He loved rowing, music, and lively debates. He found traditional learning dull, often finishing assignments at the last moment, yet somehow excelling in exams. He had a natural grasp of mathematics and physics, seeing beauty in equations where others saw only symbols. Oxford opened Stephen's world to the vastness of science. The more he learned, the more he realized how little humanity knew about the universe. Time, space, gravity, all seemed like puzzles waiting for a patient mind to piece them together. By the time he graduated, Stephen had his eyes set on one goal: to study cosmology, the science of the universe's origin and structure. For that, he applied to the University of Cambridge, home to legends like Isaac Newton. He was accepted, and it felt like stepping into history itself. But fate had a different plan. During his first year at Cambridge, Stephen noticed he was becoming unusually clumsy. He tripped often, dropped things, and his speech began to slur. He ignored it at first, blaming stress or fatigue. But when his condition worsened, his parents urged him to see a doctor. After several tests, the diagnosis came: amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, a rare incurable disease that gradually destroys the nerves controlling muscles. The doctors told him he would lose his ability to walk, speak, and eventually even breathe on his own. They gave him 2 years to live. Stephen was only 21. The shock was unbearable. For a time, he withdrew in his silence. The idea of dying before even beginning his life seemed cruel. But in those dark days, something unexpected happened. He met Jane Wilde, a student of literature. Jane was gentle, optimistic, and deeply spiritual. She saw in Stephen not the disease, but the brilliant mind still burning within. Her belief in him rekindled his will to fight. They fell in love, and with love came purpose. Stephen realized that if he was going to die, He wanted to live with meaning until the very last moment. When you're faced with the possibility of an early death, he later said, you realize that life is worth living, and there are so many things you want to do. Despite his weakening body, Stephen threw himself into his research. His PhD focused on the nature of the universe itself, its beginning and its possible end. He became fascinated by black holes, mysterious regions of space where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape. In 1970, he made a revolutionary discovery. Contrary to what scientists have believed, black holes weren't entirely black. They could emit radiation, a faint glow that would eventually cause them to disappear. This became known as Hawking radiation, one of the most significant discoveries in theoretical physics. Stephen's brilliance caught global attention. He was elected as one of the youngest fellows of the Royal Society at age 32. He continued to publish papers that reshaped our understanding of space-time, the Big Bang, and the laws that govern existence itself. His body continued to fail him, but his mind was freer than ever. He once said, "My goal is simple. It is a complete understanding of the universe, why it is as it is, and why it exists at all." By the mid-1980s, Stephen's speech had become nearly impossible to understand. After a surgery to prevent pneumonia, he lost his natural voice completely. For most, this would have meant the end of communication. For Stephen, it became a new beginning. A computer program was developed that allowed him to speak through a voice synthesizer by moving his cheek muscles to select words on a screen. That robotic, metallic voice would become one of the most recognizable sounds in the world, the voice of human perseverance. He gave lectures across continents, delivered interviews, and continued to write. His humor remained sharp, often surprising those who met him. Once, during a lecture, his computer voice declared, "Life would be tragic if it weren't funny." The audience erupted in laughter, reminded that brilliance and wit could share the same mind, even when the body could no longer move. In 1988, Stephen published A Brief History of Time, a book that aimed to explain the cosmos in a way everyone could understand. It explored black holes, time travel, the Big Bang, and the search for a theory of everything. No one expected it to become a bestseller, yet it did. The book sold over 10 million copies, was translated into more than 40 languages, and stayed on the Sunday Times bestseller list for a record-breaking number of weeks. People who had never read a science book before were suddenly fascinated by space, time, and the universe's secrets. Hawking had done something extraordinary. He had made the universe accessible. Stephen's influence wasn't limited to science. He became a symbol of resilience, intellect, and human spirit. His lectures were standing room only, and his appearances in popular culture, from Star Trek and The Simpsons to The Big Bang Theory, made him a household name. He once appeared as himself in a simulated poker game with Einstein and Newton in Star Trek: The Next Generation. It was a lighthearted moment, but deeply symbolic, the great thinkers of history meeting across time. His robotic voice became a symbol not of limitation, but of possibility. It spoke for millions of people living with disabilities, showing that the power of the mind could overcome the failures of the body. Life for Stephen wasn't without hardship. His marriage to Jane faced immense strain as his condition worsened and fame took over their lives. Jane had devoted herself to his care, raising their 3 children often under great emotional and physical stress. They eventually separated, though they remained connected by mutual respect and shared history. Stephen later married his nurse, Elaine Mason, a relationship that drew public attention for its controversies and eventual breakdown. Yet through every personal challenge, Stephen's focus on science never wavered. His drive was relentless, fueled by the same curiosity that had guided him since childhood. Stephen Hawking's work went beyond equations and theories. He explored the arrow of time, the multiverse, and the possibility that time itself might one day run backward. He warned humanity about the potential dangers of artificial intelligence and the need to explore space for the survival of our species. Despite being confined to a wheelchair, he traveled to zero-gravity flights, experiencing the freedom of weightlessness for the first time. His smile in those moments said more than any words could. A man who could not walk or speak was floating like a bird among the stars he had studied all his life. His books, lectures, and research continued until his final years. Even as his body grew weaker, his mind never dimmed. He once said, "Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change." By that measure, Stephen Hawking was perhaps the most intelligent man alive. On March 14, 2018, the world received the news it had long feared. Stephen Hawking had passed away peacefully at his home in Cambridge. The date carried a cosmic symmetry. It was the birthday of Albert Einstein. It was as if the universe itself had chosen to close a chapter on one of its greatest minds with poetic grace. He was 76 years old, far exceeding the 2-year prognosis given in his youth. In those years, he had reshaped physics, inspired billions, and proven that the power of the mind can transcend any physical limit. Thousands gathered to honor him, and millions mourned around the world. His ashes were laid to rest between Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin in Westminster Abbey, a fitting place for a man who joined their ranks as one of the greatest thinkers in human history. Stephen Hawking once wrote, "Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet." To him, life was not about what we can't do, but about what we can imagine. His story is a reminder that brilliance can bloom in the face of despair, and that strength often hides behind fragility. He left behind not only scientific discoveries, but also a philosophy that curiosity is our greatest gift and that understanding the universe gives meaning to existence. His final message to humanity was filled with hope. Be curious, and however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. It matters that you don't just give up. Stephen Hawking's body may have been bound by gravity, but his mind roamed free through the galaxies. He gave humanity the courage to question the unknown, to embrace the mystery of time, and to believe that even the frailest voice can echo across the universe. He began life under the shadows of war and left under the light of the stars. A man who could not move, yet moved the world.